Today we will be talking about JD Vance's recent speech, which has sparked considerable discussion, but also talking about Trump's tariff threats. And joining me today is Velina Tchakarova, Geopolitical Strategist and founder of FACE. Welcome to Riks Europe.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a great pleasure being with you today.
So I'll start off by asking about Trump. What is Trump trying to achieve with his threats of tariffs towards the EU? And do you think he is going to succeed?
Well, first and foremost, we need to place the tariff policy of Trump 2.0 into a specific geoeconomic and geopolitical context, and that is the systemic competition and rivalry with China. It's a bifurcated world. That means that United States wants to emerge as the sole winner out of the fourth industrial revolution. Mostly it's about the technological decoupling between United States and China, but the trade war is going to be the framework for this bilateral relationship. And anything else has to be seen in this context. That means that, unfortunately, once again, tariff policies will affect allies and partners as well, similarly to the framework that I have outlined when it comes to China. Now, here my expectation is that in general we might end up with witnessing tariffs being imposed on the rest of the world in, let's say, amounting to maybe 10-15%. And when it comes to China, the starting point right now, in January/February is the lowest level, and we might end up over the next 3-4 years up to 60% tariffs. So it's a really kind of new world order when it comes to the geoeconomic, competition. And I think that European powers and the European institutions are still coping with, this new reality. Of course, we might argue that the European Union has the tools to, let's say, react to Trump's tariffs. There will be counter tariffs, similarly to what happened during his first mandate. You remember at that time, President of the European Commission was Juncker. Juncker and Trump met, and then they somehow, avoided the worst case scenario. But still, first direct impact on, Europe will be the strained transatlantic relations. Second important point will be about the geoeconomic repercussions. Here we have significant European powers, such as Germany, which have been showing vulnerabilities already, even prior to the US tariffs, and they will be struggling economically to, adapt to this new reality. Again, because it's not just about America, but it's also about China. Remember, here we had the very, very interesting approach by the Commission named de-risking approach to China. And last but not least, we should not forget that it's about the challenges to the so-called multilateral trade system, right? So here we have also the signs of a completely disrupted multilateral, trade system, in which basically the middle power, so to say, we saw that already happening with countries like Mexico. Mexico has been a big winner from the last 5 years of geoeconomic realignment during the pandemic. And now these countries are going to have to somehow oscillate and navigate between these two powerful blocs led by the United States and China. So all in all, what do I expect? They have to be retaliatory tariffs, as I mentioned. Here, of course, potential countermeasures could include imposing tariffs on US goods, mostly ones that have been already mentioned, such as whiskey, motorcycles. Remember last time Harley Davidson was a victim. But then again, of course, it's a question and it's a matter of strategically targeting products from states that supported President Trump. So here, again, probably there will be dividing lines. There might be some issues linked to strengthening the internal market. And then, of course, what I fear is going to happen is this trend towards diversifying trade partnerships. So on the one hand, the European Union will have to introduce more free trade agreements. So the one that happened with Mercosur, this is the trend, the positive trend. But then again, of course, member states might try to accommodate with the United States in bilateral terms.
And you mentioned the expectations, but what do you believe that the European Union should do? How should they respond? What would be the best strategy?
You mean the best strategy to tariffs? There is no best strategy to tariffs. I mean, once we start, walking this escalatory path, and again, here I think that Trump's team has been preparing for this scenario for quite some time. And this is just the beginning, like the case with, Mexico and Canada, where we had already 30 days of postponement, but this is not over. It's about the weaponization of economic policies and trade instruments also for the sake of geopolitics when Trump wants to achieve certain geopolitical, bonus points on specific U.S. national interests. He once again plays this card of tariffs, right? And in our case, there are not so many, let's say the space for retaliation is not that broad. Why? First and foremost, because the U.S. is our main strategic partner, so it's our strategic ally, right? And right now we have witnessed from last week what it means when, our strategic ally number one has a very different view of the global order, of competitors, rivals, and partnerships. And that is why I think that it's not so easy just to place some recommendations as to how to, go this escalatory path again. Obviously, there will be a series of tariffs which will target European exports. This is not the first time. As we saw last time, it's going to be about steel, aluminium, automobiles, pharmaceuticals, semiconductor chips, Semiconductor chips is at the heart of the geopolitical realignment and the geoeconomic competition right now. And again, I just don't see really strong cards being played by the European Commission. And the member states in this particular game have rather secondary importance because it's the Commission that will have to, take the leading role in this.
And I wanted to mention a little bit about JD Vance's speech. Could you just first tell me your reaction to it, the fact that he also brought this up at a security meeting?
So this Munich Security Conference edition was, in my view, as someone who has been covering this sort of events for quite some time, to be equaled with probably the Munich Security Conference from 2007. Remember the one when President Putin went and made this very famous speech and unleashed some sort of similar reaction, even though that the content was very, very different. And here, once again, I think that we had a very kind of similar vibe in Munich. Now, I will refrain from discussing and elaborating on those points of Vance's speech that were, pretty much reflecting double standards points, talking points that were actually meant for American audience when it came, to the security challenges that are stemming from within, instead of addressing the security challenges that are now affecting the European security order, and in fact also the global order, such as the dragon bear, the modus operandi between China and Russia. That is a modus vivendi of so to say, strategic coordination in all systemically relevant domains. I mean, this would have been a topic that I would have expected from a vice president of the new vice president of the United States to address as the most significant security challenge right now for the West as a collective actor, but also for the United States and for the European partners. Instead, he asserted that Europe's primary security challenges are stemming from within, specifically citing issues such as mass migration and the perceived erosion of free speech. And this is what I'm referring to when I mean that he practically made half of this speech being about, his own voters, the voters of, Trump and JD Vance in the United States. But I would like to focus specifically on the geopolitical talking points, because this was what I found, most striking, and I would like to highlight for our audience. And that is the talking point about European self-reliance, emphasizing a major shift in the US foreign and security policy. And this is a shift towards the Indo-Pacific region and specifically China. That means that JD Vance urged the European partners to take greater responsibility for their own security and defense. Okay, that was nothing new. Think of, all these calls for, increasing the defense budgets, committing to the goals of NATO, and so on and so forth. But here, I think the very fact that he openly stated that the US is moving away from the old continent and is practically implying that would no longer take care of the European security problems because of this focus towards China and the Indo-Pacific. I think that this has been the really biggest geopolitical highlight from his speech. What does this mean? First and foremost, it means that it's not just a momentum, it's a concrete trend towards strained transatlantic relations. And it also means that depending on the European adequate response, question mark, is there going to be one? There will be a new modus operandi between the United States and the European powers in the field of security and defense. But last but not least, it has direct impact on the ongoing Russian war against Ukraine. And we are actually getting the facts right as we have this interview, what this means, namely direct US-Russia negotiations, deciding over the fate of Ukraine, while the Europeans are already being sidelined in this whole negotiation process.
Thank you very much, Velina Tchakarova, geopolitical strategist and founder of FACE, for being here with Riks Europe today.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
And thank you for watching Riks Europe.